catchy song, isn't it? We're talking about Zacchaeus, and we're looking at it this week in light of the fact that Zacchaeus was not just a wee little man, but a man that needed love, needed someone to reach out to him. And the fact that Jesus did this and did it so successfully is something that we need to study and understand what was the real reason. Now we know is because Zacchaeus would get saved and his life changed, and what a testimony. We still talk and sing about it. But I want you to consider this today, that here's this man that was born with these issues that made him odd in people's eyes. He grew up with a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to get back at people. He becomes the chief, not just a publican, but the chief of the publicans. He's a hated man. He's a despised man. He's a turncoat. He's now made himself. He's got the nicest house in the city. He's got, the whatever newest technology is. He had it. He lived a life of luxury. But he was lonely. But he was miserable. He had nothing. And here this wicked, wealthy, wandering man was living his life and wanted to see Jesus and find out who he was. So he couldn't get through the crowd. Most normal crowds would have let him through just out of kindness, but not him. So he runs ahead, hoping that Jesus would go this pathway, and he climbs up in that sycamore tree. He waits on the Lord, and the Lord comes to him. And the Lord, actually, opposed to everyone else in that entire crowd, stops and looks at him and talks to him. Zacchaeus is amazed. Matter of fact, the people are amazed. He said, "What are you doing talking to this sinner?" I mean, Zacchaeus was bad. I mean, all of them were sinners, but he was a sinner. But the Lord comes to him. He says to come down. He said, "I want to spend time with you today." Well, let's look at the success and what happened here. Obviously, I believe we know that he gets saved. In Luke chapter number 19 and in verse number 9, and Jesus said to him, "This day is salvation come to this house." I mean, Zacchaeus gets saved. What a glorious thing. Praise the Lord. What a change. And that will make a change in any man. I don't care if you're the chief of the publicans and the worst sinner of them all. Salvation changes everything. Zacchaeus gets saved. But not only does Zacchaeus get saved, but he surrenders his life. I mean, in verse number 8, you see that he surrenders his life to the Lord. It says, "And Zacchaeus stood and said unto the Lord, Behold, Lord." He recognizes him as Lord of his life. I mean, here's a man that is self-made. Here is a man that is prideful in him. Here's a man that has done something with himself and built all of this around him. But he stops and now he says, "Lord." He surrenders his life. He recognizes Jesus as master. He surrenders his luxury. He says in verse number 8, he said, "Half my goods I give to the poor." He said, "I don't need all this. I'm going to help people now." What a change. He surrenders his life to the Lord. He surrenders his luxury to the Lord, and he surrenders his lies to the Lord. It says in verse number 8, "And if I have taken anything from any by false accusation," he said, "if I've lied and taken advantage of people," he said, "I'm giving back to them 4 times what I took from them." Wow. But catch what he says there. He's surrendering his lies to the Lord. He knows that there are things that he has done and said that weren't true. All of his life was a lie. People looked at him and said, "Wow, he's got it made. That guy, he's got everything." No, he had nothing. Because all the money in this world cannot be in exchange for a soul, for the joy of the Lord. So here's a man that gets saved. Here's a man that surrenders his life and his luxury and all of his lies that seem to be holding him up. It's just a facade. And now he gives it all to the Lord. And this is a changed man. And maybe those that God has placed in our life, the Zacchaeuses, we'll call them, are there because the Lord wants you to reach out to them. I know they're angry. I know they're mean. I know they're different. I know that they could not care less about who you are. But maybe God has them in your life because they have a soul And maybe you can be the first person in a long time that walks up to them and actually is kind to them, looks them in the eye, shares the love of God with them, invites them out to get lunch together. You might make a difference. The salvation of a soul may be dependent upon you getting over your prejudices, your fears, your anger, and reaching out to them. And what God can do with a surrendered life is quite amazing. We'll wrap up Zacchaeus' story tomorrow. Your house today.